Hello to all our subscribers. Thank you so much for joining Coffee with the Kingpins today. And once again, I am truly honored and excited to have with me Dr. Andrew Dutta, who is a renowned Vedic astrologer and KP astrologer. And today we are going to discuss all kinds of interesting very, very interesting information. And before we start, I just wanted to thank everyone for liking and subscribing. If you're interested in any of these subjects, please do make a comment and go to our website, our YouTube channel, Rumble channel, and share it with friends and family. And it is our pleasure and our honor to bring you all these very, very interesting subjects. Andrew G, as I call you, Dr. Andrew Jatta, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you, Firoziji. Thank you for inviting me to your channel and giving me this wonderful, honorable opportunity to speak to all of your subscribers and well-wishers on various topics of astrology, especially the Indian systems of Vedic and KP astrology. I'm so honored, so glad to be in your channel today.
Well, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much. And I know that you're going to be sharing some very interesting news as far as also like some of the aspects that right now going on in the skies.
Yes, absolutely. And you said skies and as we see it, everything is happening so much in the air, and all the fireworks that are happening in the air. The way how I am looking at it is the movement of Jupiter in the airy sign of Mithuna, and Jupiter is a very expansive planet, as we all know. And I'm keeping it, as non-technical as possible. So
Yes, thank you.
Jupiter Jupiter being a very expansive planet, owner of a fiery sign, also the owner of a watery sign, things are going to finally get cooled down and it's going to get watered down. But now is the time where Jupiter in the sign of Mithuna, according to the sidereal system of astrology. Now,
That would be
Jupiter,
Aries, right?
um, no, Jupiter in Gemini sign.
Gemini, right?
Yeah, Jupiter in Gemini sign, and it's in that sign according to the sidereal zodiac. So this Jupiter, which is right now, so people might say Jupiter is also the owner of a watery sign Pisces. Now, why am I focusing on fire? Now, Gemini is exactly opposite to Sagittarius, which is a fiery sign. So Jupiter is right now in a fiery mode. And there is a very old saying in the Indian systems of astrology, especially from Eastern India, from where I belong, that Jupiter harms the place where it sits. And it really does very good to the places where it throws its drishti or aspect.
Mm.
Now, let me take the sitting aspect where Jupiter is occupied in Gemini. Gemini is an airy sign, a sign which rules communications, networking, the neighbors, the courage, and we are seeing a lot of negotiations, a lot of discourses, a lot of courage, sometimes maybe bad courage that is happening right now. Too much of threats
Mhm.
going out, and Jupiter at this point is in a sign which is owned by Mercury. And so we need to go one level deeper and understand the relationship between Jupiter and Mercury. Now, there is a mythological story, there's a mythological angle to this. From where does this energy of Jupiter, energy of Mercury come from? Jupiter's wife was illegitimately made pregnant by Moon, and the child that resulted from Moon and Jupiter's wife's union was none other than Mercury. And when Jupiter came to know this, that my wife is going to give birth to a child, which is an illegitimate child, I'm not the father, Jupiter was very angry. And when the child was born, he disowned the child. But when he later understood that the child is extremely intelligent, Jupiter is wisdom, but this child is intellect. Jupiter wanted to love that child, that, oh, you are my child. You are my kind of a child. But by that time, everything was spoiled. The father son relationship was spoiled. Mercury said, no, never. You disowned me right at the beginning. Forever you will keep me disowned. I will never like you anymore. So, when Jupiter is in the sign of Gemini, sign belonging to Mercury, or the sign belonging to Virgo, or Mercury is in the sign of Sagittarius or Pisces, in Pisces it gets debilitated. Sorry. So these are the four places where, respectively, Jupiter does not enjoy being, Mercury does not enjoy being. So Jupiter doesn't like really the places. He feels uneasy, and Mercury is outrightly um, deliverer of not so happy and good results when it is in Sagittarius or in debilitation in Pisces. So right now, when we are looking at the transit chart, because we also need to look at the individual charts of countries. So when we look at the overall transit chart, Jupiter's presence in Mercury is definitely firework in the sky, fireworks in the air, and one needs to look at every 12 years, 13 years when Jupiter comes to Gemini, how there are flare ups happening. For example, there are deadly plane crashes that have happened
Mhm.
here in India and in other places as well. So, fire in the air is very much a theme that is operating now, but given the nature and ownership of Jupiter, things are also going to subside and cool off. But yes, Jupiter hasn't yet moved beyond the 15 degrees of Gemini.
Mhm.
So it is yet to reach the peak point in the Rashi, which is the 15 degree. So we will expect some more severe fireworks to happen, and it's going to subside. It's not going to be a day of apocalypse. I don't see it still that way.
No, no, no. And let's now um, examine the benefic parts because everything has a positive and a negative. What would you say is the positive of Jupiter being where it is? Because it is aspecting its own sign of ruler of Sagittarius, correct?
Yes, yes, absolutely. The most benefic spot is also going to come from Gemini. Once Jupiter crosses the 15-degree mark,
Hmm.
what will start developing is tremendous amount of networking, negotiating, and diplomatic efforts. Gemini is the sign of high quality diplomacy, but based on other planetary positions, this diplomacy might be backdoor channels.
Hmm.
This diplomacy can also be through force, through countries brought to the negotiation table because their allies or friends force them to do so. But yes, because of Jupiter as a natural benefic planet
Yes.
and being in a sign which lets negotiation, contacts, contracts, and diplomacy, intelligence happen, Jupiter will also be the creator of this negotiation and is going to be through interaction, talking, sitting across the table, because right now Jupiter is sitting across its own bhava, its own house, or
Right.
Rashi, if we may say, without taking the bhavas into account, the Rashi sitting across is Rashi. So basically, Jupiter is sitting across the other side of the table.
Right.
So we are going to see a lot of diplomacy, a lot of negotiations, new contracts emerging once Jupiter crosses that 15-degree mark, which is going to still take, sorry, which is still going to take a couple of more months.
So interesting that you said that because I have my moon in Gemini and my sun in Sagittarius. And well, it's been an interesting time. Uh so
Yes, so your emotions are going to have that element of moving fast, but also there is going to be heat and warmth in that emotions. And sometimes, due to your moon and sun opposite to each other, and Jupiter sitting on your moon sign right now, there are going to be situations that are going to create emotional the emotional temperatures are going to rise up. So there are going to be times when emotionally you would feel very heated up.
Right.
And uh,
I've
it,
noticed
it,
that already.
yes, so depending on other chart and other planetary positions, that will undergo some change. But yeah, but looking at the direct effect, the emotions are going to be more charged up now
Right,
with a lot of more heat, I would say, a lot of temperature.
right, right. Well, thank you so much. So, Andrew, tell us a little bit about KP and specifically since um, we are focusing on compatibility, if you could explain, just inform us about KP astrology is really, really interesting. I know I've taken a couple of classes with you, and it's phenomenal for prediction specifically. And anyway, I'll let you inform the viewers.
Yeah, thank you, Firozi ji. Krishnamurti Paddhati, as it goes by the name KP Astrology, KP system, it's one of the very modern systems of Indian astrology, which was invented around 1963 by the gentleman late K.S. Krishnamurti, Kuthur Subbaraya Iyer Krishnamurti.
Hmm.
And it's a very simple system, very powerful system, and it doesn't let you, you know, maneuver your path too much into theories and concepts. So the system is very simple. You will look at a planet, you look at the planet's star, the planet is sitting in which star, and then Krishnamurti system has broken down every star, every nakshatra into unequal parts, and there are 249 subdivisions of a nakshatra.
Right.
So a planet is seen to be sitting in a Rashi, in a Rashi, in a particular star or nakshatra, and within that nakshatra, in a particular subdivision. Similarly, every house is mapped out according to the Placidus system, and every cusp of a house is mapped out on a particular sign, within that sign onto a particular nakshatra, and within that nakshatra on a particular subdivision of the nakshatra. These two are the two important tools which are used in KP astrology. With that, you find out whether something is promised in your life or not. You can do prashna, you can do natal chart, you can do mundane chart,
Can you explain what
whether,
a prashna chart is, please?
yeah, prashna chart is basically horary chart. So it's basically the question chart. If
Mhm.
somebody asks you a question like, I belong to, I come from country X, and my country is in war with country Y.
Yeah.
Let me know, will my country win this war? So there has to be a connection. Now, if I ask that I belong to country B, neither to X nor to Y, will country X win the war or Y win the war? Is very difficult. Almost always a KP astrologer might go wrong.
So you have to be
So
emotionally invested in the
e-
question that you ask.
exactly, as they say in Virginia, you must have a dog in the fight. So uh, if I belong to country X and you are a KP astrologer, I belong to country X, and I frame my question in this way. I belong to country X and I want to know whether my country is going to win this war. Now, answering that question does not require the birth chart of the country. It doesn't require the birth chart of the person asking the question. All you can do is you can create a prashna chart of the moment, or you can ask for a subdivision number between 1 to 249, and whichever number is given, you cast that chart and you can get a clear answer, yes or no. And if yes, what type of winning is there? If no, what kind of a loss is there, or what kind of a um, you know losing the war, what factors is going to cause that, so on and so forth. So it's very easy, very pinpointed. Whereas in Vedic astrology, we would look at various chakras like Kurma chakra. Let's say for the president or for the prime minister, the on the war front, how the significant win or loss is there. We look at the Kurma chakra or the Singhasan chakra, and there are so many other chakras are there, which is also a very important body of knowledge. But here in KP, it's one principle, one concept, and the applications can be done everywhere in the same manner. You don't have to change your application pattern. And coming to the second part of your question, where you asked me about compatibility, Krishnamurti Paddhati is very sharp and simple when it comes to compatibility. The original ideas of compatibility given by late case Krishnamurti, the inventor, was simple, easy to learn, easy to apply. However, later on, it was improvised and a new set of compatibility rules were invented by a very senior direct student of K.S. Krishnamurti way back in the 1980s, early 1990s, late 1980s, early 1990s. His name was Kuppu Ganapati, and Kuppu Ganapati gave 10 rules of KP system based compatibility testing,
Interesting.
which came, yeah, and it came to be known as Krishnamurti Paddhati Dasavidha Pauratham, which in short is known as KPDP. So Krishnamurti Paddhati Dasavidha Pauratham, Dasavidha means 10 types of, and Pauratham means matching, or matching aphorisms.
Right.
So today, as KP astrology stands, a very large number of KP astrologers use this KPDP or the 10 aphorisms. These are fundamentally 10 rules
Mm,
to be applied in two birth charts. So for Mr. X and Miss Y, if we are to look at compatibility, there are 10 dimensions which we are checking through this KPDP. And it covers everything starting from your mental matching, emotional matching, physical matching, and whether you should at all get married or not.
hmm.
Because the Indian system is more about marriage and having children, being a family right from day one. Now, culturally, this can also be adapted to countries like US and other countries of Europe.
It could mean serious relationships, basically
Absolutely.
committed relationships. Yeah.
Yes. So even serious relationships can be understood from the perspective of Krishnamurti Paddhati Dashavida Pauratham, and it gives a very good snapshot view of mental compatibility, emotional compatibility, physical compatibility, and whether you should continue the relationship or not.
So
So,
could you, in a way, go through these 10 points, like simplify them? Or are these planetary aspects between the two charts? Like
um,
Moon Mars connection, Sun Moon connection, Venus Moon connection.
okay. The connections are actually not linear.
Okay,
Some of the connections are linear, but some other connections are having multiple variables, or as we say, it has multicollinearity. In simple word, it means that if I am looking at emotional compatibility, we look at the star lordship, sublordship of moon
I see.
of one matching with the other. Now, when we say matching, this is where a lot of different layers come in. It is about whether my moon and my star lord, that is my Rashi lord, moon in the sign of Jupiter, let's say moon is in Sagittarius. So my moon star lord Jupiter and moon is in the subdivision of, let's say, Saturn. So whether my Jupiter and Saturn as the star lord and sublord of moon matches with my partner's moon star lord and sublord. So, I would love to talk on this maybe in one of your interviews. I would actually show
Right.
how KPDP operates, and anybody who has gone through a KP course, or maybe who would go through a KP course, can can do this matching by themselves. So some of these are simple, like, my moon star and moon subdivision, another person's moon star and moon subdivision. And by the way, it also can be applied. I have applied that also between business people who are looking for partnership. So
Correct. Yeah.
sometimes people come with the charts of two, three partners, and they say that, look, I want to do partnership with these three people. Can you tell me who would be a better partner for me? Who would be a more long-term partner for me? Who is going to be a sustainable partner for me? And who are the people with whom I should really sign the deal? Because here the ten dimensions which are there, the mental makeup, whether you and your partner have same business strategy in mind, same goals in mind. Emotional connect, whether you and your business partner have the same emotional investment in your business and products. The physical component, how you and your business partner are physically ready to sweat it out, not on the bed, but in the office.
Right.
So, whether at all you should sign the deal with your partner and bring him or her on board, the KPDP can be equally applied in this kind of business deal as well.
Any
But
form
of
of
course, it will,
partnership.
yes. So, you will need the horoscopes just like in any compatibility study. So, KPDP is wonderful. And there are some other tricks and tips which I'll talk about now. But I would definitely say that maybe one session we can do where I can show how KPDP is done and how one can make sense of the scores. Because what Kupu Ganapati did was he made it into a numerical score on a
Interesting.
score of 10. So,
Right.
on a scale of 10, one can easily find out the score on each of these dimensions. How do I fare well? Or how does this partnership, relationship, compatibility fare well on a scale of 10?
I
So
have to go
anything,
and brush up on my KP classes.
yeah, and anything beyond 5 on a scale of 10, Kupu Ganapati used to say that's good to go. It's good to go ahead with that particular aspect.
That's very interesting. I would love it. Yes, next time we'll organize it so that you can share your screen and show us the chart and take us through the one step each step.
Yes,
That'll be very
absolutely.
interesting.
Absolutely. And there are other tips and tricks also in compatibility when it comes to Krishnamurti Paddhati. Some of the tips and tricks are very easy, and I'll deal with the easy ones so that people can
Yes.
create their own chart and their partner's chart, and they can quickly see in your horoscope. You have a Lagna Lord, which is important, ascendant Lord, and there is also an ascendant sublord according to KP Astrology. So your ascendant lord and your ascendant subdivision lord, these two planets, if you find in your partner's horoscope, they are situated in the chart either in your partner's ascendant sign or in the seventh house sign, house and sign, either or these two conditions, and your ascendant lord and your ascendant subdivision lord is seen in your partner's seventh cusp.
Hmm.
Seventh cusp is made up of sign, star, and sub. So,
Right.
in that seventh cusp, in your partner's horoscope, you find your Lagna Lord and your subdivision Lord is there in his or her cusp. That's a clear indication of two people will have a deep, meaningful relationship.
Mm.
Now, let's stick on to this principle first. They are going to have a deep and meaningful relationship. Is it going to survive? It will survive if I am running the Mahadasha of my Lagna Lord or the subdivision Lord of my Lagna or ascendant, or my partner is running the Mahadasha of my Lagna Lord or my Lagna subdivision Lord, which is there in his or her seventh cusp.
Can
It's
you
going to be
explain what the Mahadasha is?
Mahadasha is the first cascade of time that we use in Indian systems of astrology, much like how in Western astrology we have progression, but progression is measured in Western astrology as 1 degree for a year. Here in Indian systems of astrology, when you are born, we look at the moons and nakshatra,
Mm.
and let's say you are born with moon in the star of Mercury, which means you are born in Mercury Mahadasha, the
Right.
first cascading of time, and we find out how much of that Mahadasha did you get. Mercury is for 17 years. How much did you get? Let's say you got 7 years of Mercury at birth. So first 7 years of your life is Mercury Mahadasha. Then comes Ketu Mahadasha for 7 years.
Right.
Then comes Venus Mahadasha for 20 years. Then comes Sun Mahadasha for 6 years. Now, these Mahadashas are like big boxes, like Russian dolls. The first big doll is the Mahadasha. When you open the first doll, you find another small doll inside. That's the Antardasha. When you open that second doll, you find the third doll, small one. That is the Pratantir Dasha. So the Indian systems of astrology, mainly the Parashari system, I need to qualify that, say that it's more the Parashari system, where you have the Mahadasha, Antardasha, Pratyantar Dasha, Shukshma Dasha, and Prana Dasha. Gemini system, which also has the Mahadasha system, but it's not all based on planets. It's also based on different other forms like Charadasha,
The moon.
then yeah, Charadasha is there, and a couple of other dashas I'm not able to recall right now. I don't do much of Gemini. I use very selective portions of Gemini. So these Mahadashas are fundamentally how we break down big chunks of time. So if I am supposed to live for 80 years, how my 80 years is broken down into major chunks of time, and then one chunk of time, how it is further broken down into 5 different layers. So that's the significance or the concept behind Mahadasha.
So put it simply, it's a cycle that's really designated at the time of your birth. And so you go through
Absolutely.
different cycles as you, like you mentioned, like the Western progressions. So every year,
Absolutely,
change.
absolutely. And although it is a cycle, the cycle would never repeat in
Yes,
the same way in my life again. So if I'm born in Mercury Mahadasha, Saturn Antardasha, and Jupiter Pratyantya Dasha, I may later get Saturn Mahadasha, Jupiter Antardasha, and Mercury Pratyantya Dasha, but the combinations, even they theoretically look same,
different.
but it's never going to give the same result.
Right.
So many a times people come and ask me, my Saturn and Mercury was very good, but why is my Mercury and Saturn not so good as my Saturn and Mercury? So the answer is, when you had Mercury and Saturn, there were other configurations at play. But now that you have Saturn and Mercury, different configurations are at play.
But wouldn't you agree that the daily transits, or I should say the monthly transits, are also something that it plays a role in how things transpire.
Absolutely, absolutely, very much, very much. When I have two Gurujis, my first Guruji, second Guruji. When I was learning Vedic astrology and stellar forms of astrology, from my first Guruji, I asked this question that Dasha Bhukti or Dasha Antar Dasha Pratyantar Dasha of a person is showing this. But I find transit to be like this. I am more inclined to say this. And that day he told me, nothing can supersede the result of Dasha, Antardasha, Pratyantar Dasha. The Dasha, Antardasha, Pratyantar Dasha defines the perimeter. It defines the boundary. Transits, progressions, or other factors will only add up or delete within that perimeter, but it can never exceed, supersede, or go beyond that perimeter. So many a times I find new learners, even seasoned astrologers, who get tempted to look at the transit and say something,
Right.
but the caveat is the warning is always look at the perimeter or the boundary defined by the Mahadasha, Antardasha, and Pratyantar Dasha. Addition, deletion, modification is possible by the transit. Let me take an example and help explain all of you.
Yes, thank you.
Let us say, let us say I am running Saturn Mahadasha, Mars Antardasha, and Rahu Pratyantar Dasha. I've particularly chosen the three natural malefics. And let us say that in the horoscope, it shows Saturn, Mars, and Rahu are linked with 8th house and 12th house. So there is a very good, and Lagna as well. So ascendant, 8th house, and 12th house, and Saturn, Mars, Rahu coming into the picture, it is a potent indication of bodily harm, some kind of wounds, accidents, surgery, some bloodshed. So we understand that it can mean bodily harm and injury, to just say in two words. Now, before we warn or before we forewarn our friends or clients, one also needs to see what is the situation in the transit.
Right.
Let us say in the transit, Jupiter is throwing its Vedic drishti, fifth house drishti, ninth house drishti on my lagna, so
Really,
my body will be saved to a large extent.
right.
So
Aspect.
I may still have an injury, but with a small cut. I may still have an accident, but without breaking my bones. Let's say another person with very similar configuration, there is no Brihaspati or no Jupiter's aspect. Rather, in the transit, Saturn is aspecting Mars, and Mars in turn is aspecting his body.
Wow.
Now, that's going to be a real cause of concern, and we need to really tell the person to be safe while driving, to not to pick up any fights at a bar or at a pub.
Maybe stay
And
home.
yeah, even staying at home, be careful when you're
Okay.
walking into your bathtub. Okay, so we need to um, uh, dress the forecast by garnishing or not garnishing, depending on what my fundamentals are saying, dasha, antardasha, pratyanta dasha, and the transits are the addition or deletions into that.
Right.
But transits are never going to deliver. independent result. That's a complete no. So transits by themselves will not deliver independent result. So if my dasha, antardasha, pratyantardasha does not permit, transits have no independent portfolio to deliver a result which currently I am not supposed to get. It will never ever happen. Because
Mm.
that's when the mistake happens in prediction. People look at transit independently and say, and then it doesn't happen.
Very interesting. You know, every time we talk, I mean, astrology in general is, it never ends. One's learning never, ever ends. And yeah, I feel like you really have to dedicate yourself on a daily basis because I've realized, because, you know, I'm learning, I also have my business, and I realized that there are certain things that I learned that then after a while I forget. So I have to go and brush up again. So, yes. And I'm going to brush up with my KP courses because I want to test all these golden nuggets that you're sharing with us today. Thank you
Yeah,
so
and
much.
most welcome, Firozi ji. And maybe one chart a day is a must.
Yes,
Your friend's chart or your partner's chart or your own chart. But every day looking at the chart and trying to see, can you find out something new? And that keeps you in that process of the principles running through your mind, the applications running through your mind, and you're able to remember everything.
yeah,
So every day, one chart, at least for 15, 20 minutes, that's how you will be in touch and you won't forget.
right. So this has been very, very, very informative and interesting, Andrew G. Thank you so much. As I always ask people that I interview, any last golden nuggets that you would like to share that's rare and would be really, really
A-
interesting?
Absolutely, absolutely. Surely, Firozi ji. What I would like to share to all astrologers, all astrology learners, and also to all of you who are looking at your own charts or your friend or partner's chart, don't look at one strand of information and make a conclusion, which means don't just look at, oh, my Mars is in the eighth house, then this is going to happen.
Mhm.
It doesn't happen that way. You need to look at as comprehensively as possible. You start with a facet of your life. Let's say you want to know how good is going to be my relationship this year.
Mhm.
So you look at your Mahadasha, Antardasha, and Pratyantardasha. Look at Pratyantardasha as a planet, see where it is situated, see what house owner has the planet become, see what kind of drishti the planet has received, see whether the planet has exchanged any drishti with any other planet.
Drishti is
Look at
aspects, right?
aspect, yes, the Indian aspect.
Right, right.
Look at Navamsha, look at the D30 or the Trishamsha and the Shashtiamsha, the D60 chart, because the D30 shows difficulties, the D60 shows your karmic balances that you bring in. Now,
And
when you look at,
sorry to
yes,
interrupt, but the D60, isn't it really important to have the exact time of birth? Because it's a very sensitive chart. So if
yes,
someone thinks that they're born between 12 and 2, we can't really
yes,
rely on the D60.
Yes, that's very true. And why only D60? Because between 12 and 2,
Yeah,
even in the D1 chart, that is the
right,
main Lagna chart, even the ascendant can go wrong. So,
right,
yes, the assumption is that you have a fairly correct birth time, maybe within 2, 3 minutes, it's correct.
right,
And so, when you're analyzing something, you need to be comprehensive. Never look at any one strand of information and make a conclusion.
right.
Always look at multiple strands of information and see where it is finally leading you to. So, if you want to look at your relationship, just for example, look at your fifth house Lord.
Right.
Look at planets in the fifth house. Look at the same Lord and the same planets in your Navamsha. Look at the fifth house in the Navamsha. So you now have so many strands to deal with. And then you blend them together. If
Wouldn't you also look at your seventh house as well?
yes, seventh house is when you are into active relationship with someone, whereas fifth house shows your relationship potential.
Right, right,
So right now, if I am not with any partner, my fifth house is going to tell me my relationship potential with a partner.
right,
If I am already into a relationship with a person, then planets in the transit moving into my seventh house and the dasha, antardasha, pratyanta dasha showing connections with my fifth and seventh is going to determine how is going to be the quality of outcome of the relationship. So one is potential, one is the active manifestation of that potential.
correct. I wanted to actually ask you a question. You
Yes.
mentioned the 10 rules,
Hmm.
and you gave the example of the ascendant and the star lord and the sub lord.
Yes.
Now, would you also state that when two people have the same ascendant, that also can be a strong gelling of partnership?
Yes. And when I say yes, I also need to qualify it with three levels of understanding. Lagna primarily indicates physical compatibility
Yes.
because Lagna is body. With Lagna and with the sexual compatibility in KPDP,
Right.
we have a very good idea how the two people are going to enjoy each other's physical presence. The emotional and the mental compatibility is also through the moon and the Rashi,
Right.
and the union of the soul level connect, disconnect, the soul level karma is through the planet Sun or Ravi. So, although it is 10, there are major sections that help us to maneuver the three levels of existence.
Correct. Like I said, it's one gets really, really deep in depth, or
Yes,
you need to get deep and in depth.
exactly.
Very, very.
Exactly. The principles are very easy. Once you will learn and you will see the principles are very easy to apply, and you just need to sort them out. You need to um, kind of arrange them in certain order so that you can make a good reading. It's like constructing a very good paragraph.
Correct.
You arrange the sentences, you use the comma, the full stop, and your semicolon, and you make a very good paragraph, a meaningful paragraph. So astrology is more like articulating the interpretations very well so that it makes meaning and sense to the one who has come for the reading.
Right. So again, I interrupted you and asked you a question. I'm gonna take you back to the golden nuggets. Your last
Yes,
words, the golden nuggets that you would like to share.
yes. So as I was sharing about the the strands, never look at a single strand of information in astrology.
Right.
That's where people lose faith on astrology. You end up making a wrong prognostication. You end up making a wrong forecast or a prediction. Always look for multiple confirmations.
Correct.
If something is there in your horoscope as a potential, the potential will be confirmed from multiple angles.
Fantastic.
And the second thing that I would tell all the viewers is that astrology is not a science of predetermination. It is not written in stone. It is just an indication, it's a map for your life. The map gives you a guidance. If you follow the map, you will have less struggle, but you may still choose a different path which is not given by your horoscope, and you may still reach the destination, but it might entail different hurdles, different difficulties, different opportunities that is not presented in your horoscope. So never consider astrology or Jyotish as to be the most final thing. It is a map that shows the path to your soul's destination.
Well, I kind of look at it as it identifies the opportunities,
True,
right? And
true.
if you take those opportunities, right now, for example, I think, well, anyway, that's personal, but I'm going through a period where writing is something that I should do. And so that tells me that it's an opportunity for me to, finish the book that I started a year and a half ago. So,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Whenever you are running the dasha, antardasha, pratyantardasha of Jupiter or Mercury, you are going to definitely be a writer.
correct.
However, Charles Darwin wrote his book and kept it with him for more than 25, 30 years, did not publish. Your writing, whether it's a book, an article, or a journal paper, your write up gets published when Jupiter gets aligned with
Mercury.
Mars, or Mercury gets aligned with Mars, or Jupiter and Mercury gets aligned with Mars. So Jupiter and Mercury gives writing ability, writing prowess, output, and Mars brings in publication of that output. So whenever you're going to run these combinations, you'll be able to, you know, get your book published, and I'm going to get a copy of it.
Jupiter Mercury also is a sign that states that it's a good time to study astrology or get involved with astrology, correct? Yeah.
Yes, yes, because Mercury is the planet which gives intelligence to study astrology. Jupiter is the planet that gives the wisdom to study astrology. And astrology is a subject that is under the control of Lord Ganesha,
Hmm.
and he is represented by Mars and Ketu. So Jupiter and Mercury favors the time to learn astrology. So it's a favorable time to learn and master astrology when you are running the time periods of Jupiter and Mercury, either Jupiter or Mercury or both.
Well, Andrew G, thank you so much. It was lovely to catch up with you again, and thank you for all your wisdom and all your knowledge. And there's so much more that you can teach us. Thanks again for being here and looking forward to our next
Certainly. It's my pleasure and my
next
honor,
chat.
Firozi ji, to be on your channel. Yeah, I look forward to your next interview, and maybe we will look at KPDP on screen, and we will see how we can look at two charts and make sense with minimal effort, make the maximum